So ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by the incredible Nikki Hestford. Nikki is the owner of the Misfit brands. So Nikki, obviously thank you for coming down here to the Startup TV live stage. This is the first time we've ever had a live interview stage here. And we've got some questions to ask you. So the first question that I'd like to know is, obviously when you were thinking about setting up your own brand, I understand that there's 3 or 4 different brands now that you've got in the Misfit group of brands. Tell us how you actually took your idea, from what must have been an idea to start a lingerie company, and how it's grown so rapidly over the few years.
Yeah, in early 2008, when Misfit UK started, we started off as just a clothing brand, just the Misfit brands of blouses and dresses. It was actually just one blouse in 3 colours to begin with, sold on the website. As sales came in for that, that was commissioned for a second product, sales came in for that, a third product, and now less than 3 years later, we've got about 20 clothing brands, a lingerie brand and a swimwear brand, and gym wear coming out next year as well.
And this is all, for those of you who don't know, this is all for the larger lady?
Yeah, we kind of, any sort of clothing product that the big busted woman would need, we manufacture and sell.
And how did you determine that there was a market for this?
As I was finishing university in the beginning of April 2008, when Misfit UK started, I was planning on going into a normal pay-as-you-earn career, going into interviews, buying a shirt from New Look at River Island, and as I said before, even though I don't consider myself to be enormous busted, a size 8 to 10, the blouses just wouldn't fit, or if they would fit, anybody stood to either side of me could get a good glimpse of things that I probably didn't want them to see.
Not a good idea when you're starting out in business.
No, so I went home and googled blouses for big boobs, and obviously after sifting through a few pages of inappropriate material, found some clothing, but some of the clothing that was available was aimed at women probably 35 to 60. Very nice, nothing wrong with them, just not the sort of things that I wanted to wear, and a little bit out of my price range as well, as a sort of 21, 22-year-old. So I thought somebody must have created a top shop for big boobs, so to speak, something that's mass-produced, fashionable, affordable for the 18 to 35-year-old woman, and after further investigation found nobody did, and that I would.
So the idea came to you, you realised that there was nothing out there, you decided, right, I need shirts for my size. How do you go from obviously, thinking of this idea to create something, to the designs and obviously launching it? How did you do it?
A lot of research. It was almost like learning an entire career in a few weeks or in a couple of months. Spent an awful lot of time on Google. How people started businesses before the internet, I'll never know, because it was just hours of Google, pattern maker, starting clothing brand, all sorts of Googling things, reading forums, reading posts, talking to people, Alibaba, Trade Key, all these sites, trial and error, talking to people, trying to work out who were the con artists, who weren't, who were genuine, who had good prices. Draper's magazine in the back of there, identifying people whose job it was to create patterns, talking to them, negotiating prices. Just lots and lots and lots of research.
So there must have been a lot of obstacles that you had to overcome when you were first starting out. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the problems that you faced?
Yeah, when I first started out, I came across a website for clothing manufacturing who advertised themselves as, are you thinking of starting a clothing brand? If so, we can help. We'll do everything for you. We have a factory in Vietnam. We can do the sampling. Went to go and see them, all great. Something just didn't feel quite right with it, even though it all looked perfectly okay. So the order that I wanted was about £12,000. So I said, how does this work? So they said, well, it's a third up front, a third at prototype, and a third on completion. So I said, I don't feel too comfortable about just handing over £4,000. And they said, well, that's the way it works. We're not going to go and buy fabric without some sort of money on account. Seemed fair enough.
So at this stage, did you have the patterns already made?
No, they were willing to do everything. They were going to do the designing, everything as a one sort of unit kind of thing, which was kind of where I raised alarm bells, because I thought it seems too good to be true kind of thing. And the price was great, and it all just looked great. So I erred on the side of caution, and I actually paid the deposit on my credit card, knowing that under Section 75, if anything happened or it wasn't quite right, the credit card company's problem, not mine. It turned out to be a very
wise move.
It did turn out to be a very wise move. I paid the money up front, I paid the samples, so £8,000. It came to the day of delivery, heard nothing from them. Phones were ringing out, emails were coming back, not being responded to. So I googled the name of the company into the Google, and all of a sudden all the newspaper articles came up. This man has been jailed for fraud for 16 years, £16 million fraud operation, and he's now serving quite a long jail term. So, but when you're starting up in business, people who are con artists like that specifically target
yes, you're right.
startups.
It's very, very unfortunate. And obviously from that setback you managed to obviously overcome it and get back up. And
yeah, I mean, thankfully, if it hadn't been for the Section 75, my business probably would have ended there and then. I'd have been paying off this money and that would have been the end of it. And unfortunately, for a lot of other people who contacted me to say, we believe you've had dealings with this company, I had people on the phone ringing me up crying who'd borrowed £50,000 from the bank, they secured on the house, and had just handed this money over and lost everything. So I was one of the only people that got anything back because he dissipated his assets, had no assets, limited liability.
So for other people listening, obviously on the internet, on the Business Startup magazine, you've really, really got to do your research. Perhaps if you've done some on Google,
quite possibly, because he did have a history.
You would be a little bit more aware of that. But it just shows you what a fighter you are. You've obviously didn't let that put you off starting your own business. So obviously it's growing, it's becoming a very big success. You're taking on more brands. What are you doing to expand at the moment?
Well, when we started off back in 2008, the plan was to create these products and sell directly to the consumer online, just as an online shop, and that was always the intention. But as 3 years have gone on, we've become less of an e-tailer and become a manufacturer and a wholesaler. We now have some big high street stores that purchase our brands. Be Cheeky and Amazon, our products are available there at the moment, and we've got contracts in situ for the 2011 season with various other high street companies.
And are you international?
We would hope to be, yeah, that's our next plan. At the moment, the next stage is to identify the American and Australian equivalents of House of Fraser and that
the
sort of thing.
markets, obviously internationally, are very, very different to what somebody might buy here in the UK. So
and yet
a lot of research needs to be done on that.
But yeah, for our online sales that come through the website, only about 25% are actually from the UK. 75% of our online sales do come from outside of the UK. So actually, it makes more sense to actually, try and get in those markets.
Definitely. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs thinking of starting their own business?
Go in with caution, assume that everybody's guilty until proven innocent, and I hate to say that about people, but just go in with caution and just think, could this person not be as honest as what they're making out? Now every time anything seems too good to be true, I just immediately think it probably is. But when you do start out, you're full of enthusiasm and motivation, and I've got my spreadsheets, and this spreadsheet says that in 3 years I'll have made this much money and this, that and the other, and you're so full of enthusiasm, and then you start going out and selling and you realise that you're not getting the sales that you thought you were going to get, and then all of a sudden it's the disappointment of I'm rubbish, it's me, personal rejection, this is what I've set up, nobody wants it, maybe I should just give up. It's all that sort of negativity, and that's a problem for a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, is they set out with all this optimism, get a few knockbacks, and then it's just the rejection just gets the better of them.